Now this whole process is complete. It will execute everything, but it will not be able to output anything back to the user interface because we are not defining anything. We are not going to rely on this view update things anymore. So let's start doing that part right now. I'm gonna get rid of this sign up view implementation here. I'm gonna completely remove it because that's not useful anymore. I'm gonna do it in a different way using the outputs. So we have the output here, we are not passed anything. So for that, we can define two things for the output. One is that we need to enable the sign up button. Enable sign up, a driver we define boolean, that this is based on the values in those three controls. If there is a valid value, then we will enable. If not, we will disable the sign up button. Next is a status message, which is nothing but whenever something comes back from the server, then we show it at the bottom. So for that, we define it as a driver string. And third one is the progress. Again, it can be drivers, it cannot be a string because we are already using a view model here. So I'm just modifying it to auth status view model. And last but being the progress message, which is actually a message and is completed state, these two things. So these are the three things we'll be using in the output side. So we removed the sign up view, so I'm getting rid of it from the presenter as well. So now it should compile fine. Okay, it should not compile fine because there are things happening here where if something, the use case is successful, I'm updating the status using the view model and then updating the progress and then routing to login, updating the view status, progress, and view model. On error, update the status, progress. So I don't need this anymore. So I'm just going to use something different here. This whole section I got rid of, and I'm gonna define something called as, okay, it's giving me error. Maybe you can get rid of that because we have defined an output but never instantiated it maybe. So we will define that now. So how do we define an output? For that, let me create a function called output, which will accept an input. Sign up presentation dot input returns the sign up presentation dot output. So return is those three things. We know what all those things are. So it's already saying enable sign up, status bool, these three, enable sign up, progress. Just capture it here and keep it here. These three things is what we will use. How do we get these values? We can get it using the input. So let me just use that input email. So I'm gonna combine again, driver dot combine latest input dot email, input dot username, maybe, and keep that order place, email, input dot password, three values. I'm gonna map it and see 0 dot or I can just say, okay, this is one way, input dot 0 dot 0 is the first parameter is empty. Okay, let me capture it one by one. It will make it easier to look at it. Username empty equals input dot username is dot map. I'm just going to compare the value whether it is empty. If it is empty, I say true. So it's a nullable type. So I'm always, if there is no value, I'll say it's empty. So I'll set that true. If not, it depends on this is empty. Username empty. Then I can just capture email is empty, or finally the password. Password is empty. So 3 things, and I'm gonna use these 3 to create a driver here. So enable it based on driver dot combine latest, username email empty and password empty. I'm gonna map it and see if username is empty. Enable, it's called enable, so I should say if not empty, and if not empty, and if not empty. So these 3 should not be empty for me to enable this control. So that's the whole logic here, driving these 3 values, getting these values and seeing if any of these. So whenever there is a change, this is always subscribed to this enable sign up will be subscribed, or it will be subscribed in the user interface, and then the button will keep on seeing these values whenever they are changing. This is going to keep on sending those signals. Where if all the 3 are not empty, then it will enable this button. So that's the logic here. And then status message and progress will depend on some properties which you'll have to define. So for that, I'm going to create a type alias, a state type, which will have 2 things. One is a status message, which will be a type publish relay. Publish relay is nothing but you can read it through. It's something which will not have any replay, but it can set values to it itself. It can act both ways. You can subscribe to a publish relay as well as you can observe on it. So that is why you can use a publish relay. Only difference between a behavior relay and a publish relay is that behavior relay will always replay values, but publish relay will not. That's only difference. You can read through its documentation. And this will status message is going to be of type auth view model. There will one more be called progress. Again, it's a publish relay. And it will take these 2, this tuple, that's it. You have the publish relay in place. Now I'll have create a private property state, same values, but it just gets instantiated here. That's only difference. So that's my state property, which will actually have the, so I have this state. I'm going to make it as a driver and send it back as driver state dot status message as driver, return dot never. Similarly, this is progress is going to be state dot progress dot as never as drive with dot never drive with never. So that's pretty much done, but still the initialization is still left. So I can always say self dot output is equal to self dot the function output, which accepts the input. Self cannot be called out before our stored procedures are initialized. So we'll have to make this a static function so that we can just call this. Now this is fine. So then this becomes state needs to be passed in as a parameter. It's an instance member. That's it. It should compile fine now. So all things done. So we have the enable logic here as well as the states which needs to handle those messaging or the status message in progress. So let's add those things now, or maybe before that let me show you whether, okay, before that we need to bind the error side, or we can just see whether that enabling or whatever logic we wrote to make that text field validation, rule validation working or not. Let's see that. It's not yet working because we are not bound it yet. It will start working as soon as we make it subscribe to something. So it's not yet, so we need to call the setup binding. For that, first thing after this output, self dot setup binding, pass input. Let's see now, because we have the binding now. Sign up. Yes, it shows dynamic validation is in place. Now it starts invalid everything. sam@gmail.com. It's fine. So our validation has started working, and this button is still working because we are not bound it yet with the button. So it's directly coming and crashing over here because that it is having an empty value and we are force casting it. So we need to now make that binding happen. So let's go to the ViewController and create a function again here. So if you see, the ViewController has very less code here. Now create an extension. That's the beauty of Viper architecture. Very less code on the ViewController. Again a function, setup binding, can just say presenter dot output dot enable sign up dot drive. I can just say sign up button dot rx is enabled dot drive. It's already drive disposed by. We don't have a bag here yet, so let's create that. Import is already there. Create private let bag equal to dispose bag. That's done. Align it properly. So now I don't think the button will be enabled because it's depending on the this driving which is happening. We also need to call this here, setup binding. That's it. Compile should be fine. Run that and see. Tap, it's not enabled. No kind of signals going through now. Let me just create. This will invalidate. Nothing should happen here. Now this should be enabled. Even now it's not enabled because this is not valid. Test 1 2 3. Now everything is valid. So tap works. Everything worked. It gave me 401. So that binding is also working now. Everything is looking good. Now we are just left with two things: binding the error messages as well as sending this in the background thread. So still everything is going in the main thread. See if you see it. So let's do that. Sign up, error message. We just need to say if there is an error. We already have this state dot progress dot accept event message, which is this str is completed is true. Yes, this error, this should be whatever I need to set to the button. So I can just keep it as sign up message. So this state has to be passed. Okay, it has to be passed here. That's fine. So accept, then we need to set the status message that should accept a view model auth service, auth status view model accepting a title, which is our str, which is coming as part of this error, and the color. This is a color failure case. Dot failure. So pass that. That's it. Two things done, and now the same thing on success case. So where is the success case? Success case, we can do a map, or at least do on next. Like it prints the side effects as soon as a next is happening. This is called as side effect. So let's say after this whole thing is done, if it do on next, it gives me a value here. That is like the success value from sign up successful is coming here as a side effect. This is what I'll use. So I receive this as a message, and then I use that to, let's pass this state. I use that to set these two things: accept message as a success, and then it should be a success one. This should also be reset to the same thing, sign up. And so this is the failure case. If use case sign in failed as driver, I capture it here. And this is the do on next. If it comes through this is the success case where I accept it here. So that's also done. So where we keep it as a driver and do all these things here. Now next is I need to navigate to the login screen as soon as this is complete. So that we can do somewhere here itself. Drive on next. I can ignore this message, and then I can say, can accept the router here. Closure, then router dot route to login. So in our case, we also had added a delay here. So maybe I can add this delay Rx interval dot seconds, maybe 2 seconds. After that it navigates to the login screen. So after success, 2 seconds login screen. Maybe that's how I'm hoping how it's going to work. Just added it there. And one more thing, we have not we completely removed the validate step. So there was a place where the signing in was happening. That is totally gone now. So we need to add it somewhere. So that should happen right when the tap is received here. So let's capture that side effect here. underscore. I'm not gonna do anything with that. Do this, and I'm just gonna update the status there. I'm just gonna say status accept signing up dot dot dot, say false. It's not completed, it's just starting. So starting is here, completion is either when it is failing or when it's successful, these two places. So this is the chaining where everything is now sign up. As soon as that tap is received, it sets the progress to signing up, and it is making the button to not completed. We need to do this. Okay, we need to do this, and button is not yet disabled. We need to do that when the progress is happening. So we need to wire that as well. So driver, so we can combine it somewhere where we know it. We can do that to the different place. So this is happening. All things are done. Let's go to the user interface and wire these things where it has to show the messages. Sign up setup messages, presenter dot output dot status message dot map. What all things are coming as part of status message? It sends me $0 dot a title. I'm gonna map that and then use it to drive my sign up button dot rx dot title control dot normal. So this is as simple as that. Dispose by bag. So title binding is happening here. Status message, I'm mapping and transforming this into a title observable, and then driving using that the title driver, and is using that to bind to my sign up button title. Next thing is to enable and disable. Okay, this is not my sign up, this is my status message, so it should be bound with my error label, or label, what is it called, status label, sorry, status label rx dot text. That's what it is bound to. And then we also need to set the color. Dot status message dot map $0 dot color. This I can only map and use because there is no direct binding for this available. So I need to do a map, and then I'll say, I'll just capture that status label in status label dot foreground color. Okay, I think I have it. Color, maybe I'll just check that once. Drive status label dot rx dot text color. It's not there, so I need to map it. Dollar UI color, I'm sending an hex color here, so I'm going to use that. Color dot or $0 dot raw value. I think this will work. Drive dot disposed back. Should be fine. I hope so. Self, okay. That's cool. That's done. Now the progress part. Dot output dot progress dot map. What do I have? A message and is completed state. So what do I do with the message? $0 dot message is what I will use to bind to my button drive sign up button dot rx dot title dot normal. Dot dispose by back. It's done. Now enabling the button is also dependent on this presenter dot output dot progress dot map $0 dot is completed dot drive. So sign up button dot rx dot is enabled is dependent on is completed. So if not completed, it should not enable it. Is that logic right? It's completed, enable. If not completed, don't enable. That's fine. So that's also done. I guess even binding is done. We need to just check whether things are working, and then the last bit where we need to see status mirror, all things done. Route to now login. This should happen. Let's see. Let's run and see. First thing first, let's check this. Route to login again. On show login button, click. Sign up. Tap, it goes back. It's fine. It's working. Tap, it's working. Now is the next thing where we see whether hello wish@gmail.com test 1 2 3 4. That's fine. Sign up. Boom, it's working. So that binding is working. I have not written that logic to clear this. So that's something we will write. Maybe that's not even needed. It's something like not even necessary, but it's not clearing this. Like if you see if it is failure, it has to clear everything. So that logic we need to write somewhere. So that should happen when clearing everything should happen when the progress is completed. Can maybe go to the view controller and do that. Just come here to, there's no two-way binding here, so maybe you'll have to write in the progress is completed wherever we are targeted. Do I can just say on next is completed. If is completed, then I can say I already have it. So we'll just do that. Clear name control, password, email. It's not drive, it should be do. That's it. So now it should clear it as soon as if this gets completed. Sign up. Hello wish@gmail.com test 1 2 3. Sign up. Boom, it's clearing. So that's also fine. It's receiving these side effects. Based on that, it clears it if it is completed. So that's also done. Now success case, it will anyway go through. So before that, let's fix this. It's still the sign up interactor running thread is in the main thread. So we need to move it to the background thread. So let's do that. So for that, I'm gonna do something. Let's see. I have an observable. So do I have this do with latest from this as observable. So I'm just gonna map whatever map is happening. I need to observe that in the main background thread. So I'll say observe on. So observe on this map, whatever map is happening under it, that will be run in the main background thread, which is calling concurrent dispatch scheduler dot quality of service in the background. Let's see whether this works. So this will be in the background thread. It should come back in the main thread because we are making it a driver again. So only thing is that we need to run this bit in the background thread, the whatever we are running in the interactor, which is like a service call. Hello vish@gmail.com test 1 2 3. Perfect. See, sign up interactor running thread is main thread. No, it's false. So it's running in the background thread now, and it dispatches it back to the main thread. Otherwise this would have given me some kind of exception that this is run. We would have not executed at all because it's not in the main thread. That you can always check. Like, let's come back to this. Maybe I just print it here itself and see. Print is ViewController in main thread. Let's see. Also, there is a way to debug as well, like something like debug. Then you can see what all signals are going through if you want to see the debug. So if you're interested in doing that, hello vish@gmail.com test 1 2 3 4. You control the main thread, sign up interactor running in the background thread. That's perfect, right? That's what we wanted. Is view control in the main thread? True, it's running in the main thread. So dispatch is fine. It failed. Now we'll see the success case where it has to now navigate to the home screen after these things. Let's see that. Hello viper@gmail or test.com. That's also fine. Test 1 2 3. Let's see. Boom. 2 seconds. That's done. So my tutorial is complete for the sign up screen, which was more or less a simpler screen because we did not have so many of use cases to handle. But at least in the login case, which I'll take up in the next version, next episode, it will have so many other things happening, like data getting saved to realm database and then dispatching then back and forth between the use cases, and even validating after login whether that user is existing or not. So 3 or 4 API plus DB calls will be happening at that point, which is a bit more interesting compared to this was not simple, but then it's a whole new approach where you can chain everything like this, like if you see it. So this was interesting, I guess, for you guys, and leave your feedback if you found it interesting. And if I have made some mistakes, then do let me know where I have gone wrong, because even this is like a huge learning for me, because this is something I have learned up in the last couple of years. So I hope it was worthy of a tutorial. And then keep posting your comments, like and subscribe if you are liking the stuff that I'm building, and then keep subscribe for the future episodes, which is going to be more interesting than this. So until the next one, and the code base will be available in my Patreon site. If you can subscribe, that would be great, because that will be more like a monthly subscription, and you can have access to this whole code base there for and come back to the future episodes. Until the next episode, it's bye from me.